What's up, guys? The Rogue Bludger here with Unashamed Gaming, bringing you what I think is the third installment in our David study. Um, I didn't upload last week, and there's a couple reasons for that. Um, well, two really. I was really busy last week. I'm busy this week as well, and I just don't feel. I don't know. I don't know how to say it other than I wasn't feeling it. I didn't. I didn't feel like I was able to make a Bible study Wednesday night, a Bible study video. I wasn't. I don't know. I didn't feel like it was. It would have been my best, the best that I could do to make it. I didn't feel as though I really had the energy or the desire to make it, and I didn't want to make a video that wasn't going to be good enough to be the best that it could be. So I didn't upload last week. That's kind of a lame excuse, but it's really all I have. Um, it's just kind of discouraging right now, I guess I would say. Um, I don't really know if anyone's watching these, which it's not about the numbers or anything like that. But I would like to know if you're enjoying it or if you're not enjoying it. Because if you're not enjoying it, we will change it. We will do what needs to be done to make it enjoyable. Um, so if you do enjoy it and you're watching it, just let me know by liking the video. If you want to see something different, if this isn't what you think it should be or what it could be, feel free to leave a comment and let me know. I'm not, upset or anything. I just want to know um, how I can best serve the people watching, um, and how we can all get the most out of this that we can possibly get. So we're going to be going over two more chapters in First Samuel today, and just kind of going through them. There's no main point really. I mean, I might devise one when we're going through it, but there's no main thing that I just want to get from it. I just want to go through it. We'll talk about it, and we'll see where we go from there. So, if you'll remember last time, David killed Goliath, and he was given it said originally that he would be given the daughter of Saul in marriage, but that hasn't happened. But he was taken into Saul's court, basically to be part of Saul's royal court. And the first thing in chapter 18 of First Samuel is where we are. We see that David and Jonathan have become friends. Jonathan, of course, is Saul's son, and they've become really, really close friends. And it then goes on to say that anything that Saul tells David to do, he does it perfectly. We know that God is with David, and basically everything he does succeeds because of that. Uh, and then, we even get examples that they go off to war. Saul sends David out, with the troops, and it says Saul has killed his thousands and David his 10,000s. So Saul begins to get jealous. If you think about it, the people are praising David, saying he's greater than Saul. His own son seems to like David even better than him, and it makes sense that he would be jealous. Everything is leading up to him being jealous, and we get in verse 11. The first instance where Saul actually tries to kill David. It says, he was having one of his fits where the spirit of an evil spirit from God came forcibly upon Saul, and he was prophesying in his house, which is kind of confusing. And so David plays the harp, and Saul throws a spear at David, and twice, and David, it misses. But he tries to kill David. And David escapes. So it says Saul is afraid of David, and so what he does is he gets David and puts him in command of 1,000 men and tells him to go out and fight, the Philistines. And he does it really well. His goal was to get David killed in battle, but it didn't happen. David succeeded, and Saul offers his oldest daughter in marriage, and David says, "Who am I that I should become the king's son-in-law. So the oldest daughter gets married to somebody else, and then Saul finds out that David, or that his younger daughter loves David, and he's like, well, this will allow him to become my son-in-law. And the reason he wanted to do this is so he would have greater control over David as his son-in-law. He could tell him to do different things that could possibly get him killed. He would have more control. And he says, all you got to do is kill 100 Philistines. And so David goes and he kills actually 200. And so Saul gives his daughter to David, and this enrages him even more. So finally, David is Saul's son-in-law. And it says, when Saul realized that the Lord, this is in verse 28, when Saul realized that the Lord was with David, and that his daughter Michal, I don't know, loved David, Saul became still more afraid of him, and he remained his enemy the rest of his days. So, and then it ends by saying, each time the Philistines went out to battle, David's men met them and were victorious, and even Saul's officers amongst them, David's name had become well known. So David keeps growing in popularity, despite Saul's efforts to prevent that. So the next chapter is all about Saul trying to kill David. So he tells his son Jonathan and his officials, I want to kill David. And Jonathan says, of course he's really good friends. He's close to David. He says, go hide. I'll talk to my father and we'll see if we can do something about it. So he basically does. And he convinces Saul to not kill David. He says, David's done a lot for you. He's an innocent man. And by the end of the conversation, Saul takes the oath and says, as surely as the Lord lives, David will not be put to death. So this kind of reconciles the relationship for a little while. And again, the whole issue where an evil spirit comes on him and he throws his spear again at David while he's playing the harp. And again, David eludes it, and David decides then to escape. So his wife, Saul's daughter, allows him to escape and kind of lies for him to cover him up and to cover herself up, because the way she worded it, he said, let me get away. Why should I kill you? As if David threatened her, but I don't think he actually did. So she covers for him basically, and covers for herself. And Saul sets out to pursue David, and he tries to kill him. David goes to Samuel, and this is where it gets a little weird. So he goes to Samuel, and Saul finds out about it, and it says, Saul was told about it, and he sent more men, and they prophesied too. Saul sent men a third time, and they also prophesied. Finally he himself left for Ramah, and went to this great cistern at Seku, and he asked, where are Samuel and David? Over in Naoth Ramah, they said. So Saul went to Naoth at Ramah, but the Spirit of God came even upon him, and he walked along prophesying until he came to Naoth. He stripped off his clothes, or his robes, and also prophesied in Samuel's presence. He lay that way all day long and night. This is why people say, is Saul also among the prophets? So that's a little weird. Everybody that Saul sent to kill David, and even when he went himself, ended up being overcome by the Lord. And really, I think what this is trying to show is just that God is protecting David. And this, I guess the main point of these two chapters would be, these are kind of an extreme example of anything being possible with God. God is on the side of David, and therefore nothing David does goes wrong. Everything he does succeeds. And this is a picture that we have in Christianity today, that people, when, say for example, God tells us to do something, we're told that he won't tell us to do something that we can't do. He's going to be right there with us the whole time. We may feel led to do something, and if God has truly led us to do that, then he will not allow us to fail in it. I find that God opens the doors that need to be opened and closes the doors that need to be closed. Everything I've felt led to do by God, that truly He has led me to do, have succeeded, and it's beyond my control that they succeeded. It's because of God that I have succeeded in the ways that I have, or failed in the ways that I have. And that's kind of the same story we see with David and Saul. Saul, rejected God and didn't follow God's commands, and he was himself rejected as king. And David is following God, following what God wants him to do, and he is succeeding immensely. And that's what we can take away from this, in my opinion. So that's really all I have for today. That's chapters 18 and 19 of 1 Samuel. I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about this, but this last week was the shooting in Charleston, and I don't have a comment about I don't know, right or wrong, or I don't know. I don't want to get political. I don't want to talk about racism. I just want to say that us as Christians need to follow the example of Christ, which is love, and that we should all be praying for the families affected, the victims, the person who committed the crime, and just our country as a whole, because there is a deep-rooted issue, much deeper than the surface level, at play here. And beyond prayer, we need to do something about it. So that's where I'm going to end. Let your light shine as Christians.